The janitor's closet door slammed shut with a metallic thud that echoed through Westfield High's empty third-floor corridor at 2:45 p.m. Inside, Brooke Evans clutched her phone as three male voices outside discussed whether to teach the snitch a real lesson, while her hidden wireless mic transmitted every threatening word directly to the campus police dispatcher. What started as anonymous reports about Coach Marcus Thornton's special treatment program for female athletes had exploded into a nightmare that would expose the darkest secrets of America's most celebrated high school basketball dynasty. Brooke had only been at Westfield High for 6 days. 6 days since her mother's job transfer from Seattle had ripped her away from everything familiar and dropped her into this gleaming fortress of athletic trophies and old money privilege in suburban Connecticut. The school's marble entrance hall displayed more championship banners than she'd ever seen, each one bearing Coach Thornton's name in gold letters. Students wore designer clothes like uniforms, drove cars worth more than her mom's annual salary, and moved through the halls in carefully segregated packs based on sport, wealth, and social status. She'd tried to stay invisible, keeping her head down and her opinions to herself. But invisibility was a luxury she couldn't afford when Coach Thornton spotted her during second-period PE class. At 6 feet tall with natural athletic grace inherited from her college volleyball player mother, Brooke stood out like a beacon among the shorter students. "You're built for basketball," he'd announced, his voice carrying that particular tone of authority that made disagreement seem impossible. "Report to my office after school. We need to discuss your future on the Lady Wildcats." The meeting never happened. Instead, Brooke had overheard senior players crying in the bathroom about mandatory private training sessions and special uniform fittings that made them want to quit the team they'd loved since middle school. One girl, team captain Ashley Chen, was sobbing about how Coach Thornton had cornered her in the equipment room and told her she needed to show more gratitude for her scholarship recommendations. Another mentioned she'd tried reporting him last year, but Principal Davies dismissed it as misunderstanding Coach's hands-on training style. That's when Brooke made her first mistake. She'd pulled out her phone and started recording. Now, trapped in a closet that reeked of industrial bleach and moldy mops, she pressed her back against the cold concrete wall and tried to control her breathing. The wireless mic she'd sewn into her backpack strap after yesterday's first threat was her only lifeline. She'd activated it the moment she saw Thornton's 3 favorite players, Tyler Morrison, Jake Patterson, and Connor Reed, following her down the empty hallway after the fire drill emptied the building. "She's been here less than a week and thinks she can destroy Coach?" Tyler's voice filtered through the door, thick with rage. "My dad donated $2 million to the athletic program. Coach got me into Duke. This little nobody from Seattle thinks she can ruin that? We should check if she has her phone," Jake suggested. "Can't have her calling for help?" Brooke's fingers flew across her screen, confirming the mic was transmitting clearly to the emergency app she downloaded after researching her rights. The app not only recorded but automatically uploaded to a secure cloud server and could alert preset contacts, including the local police station, the state athletics board, and 3 major news outlets she'd researched. Coach said to just scare her. Connor's voice wavered slightly. "Lock her in. Rough her up a little. Make sure she knows what happens to snitches." He didn't say anything about, "Coach doesn't have to spell everything out." Tuller interrupted. "You think he got where he is by being soft? You think Westfield wins state championships 5 years running by playing nice? She threatens the program? She threatens all of us." The door handle rattled violently. Brooke held her breath, pressing record on her phone's video function as backup. The fluorescent light above her flickered, casting harsh shadows on cleaning supplies that looked like they hadn't been touched in months. A bucket of dirty water sat in the corner, breeding mosquitoes. "Brooke Evans." Tyler's voice turned mockingly sweet. "We know you're in there. We saw you duck in when you thought we weren't looking. You can make this easy or hard, but you're not leaving until we have a conversation about your little recording hobby." She'd been careful, so careful, using a voice-changing app to submit anonymous tips to the school board, creating dummy email accounts to send evidence to the state's Title IX coordinator, recording conversations from hidden positions where no one could see her. But somehow, they'd figured it out. Maybe it was because she was the only new student who declined Coach Thornton's generous offer to join the team. Maybe someone had seen her phone out at the wrong moment. It didn't matter now. 3 minutes. Jake announced, "Then we're coming in." The janitor's master key is hanging in Coach's office. And guess who has access? Brooke's mind raced through options. The closet had no windows. No other exit. The walls were solid concrete. She could scream. But the building was empty for the mandatory fire drill that somehow had lasted 45 minutes longer than usual. Even the security cameras in this wing had mysteriously malfunctioned this morning, a detail that suddenly made terrifying sense. She typed rapidly into the emergency app. 3 male students holding me captive in third-floor janitor closet. They have keys. Please send help immediately. This is being live-streamed. Names: Tyler Morrison, Jake Patterson, Connor Reed, acting on orders from Coach Marcus Thornton. You know what's funny? Tyler continued, his voice closer to the door. Now, everyone thinks Coach is this monster. They don't understand what he's built here. Westfield was nothing before he arrived. Lost every game. 0 college prospects. Now, we're legends. My brother graduated 3 years ago. He's starting for the Lakers now. You think that happens without Coach's connections? Without his methods? She wouldn't understand. Jake added, look at her thrift store clothes. Driving that ancient Honda, she's not Westfield material. Probably why her mom really moved here, hoping to sue the school for a payday. The accusation stung because it held a grain of twisted truth. Her mother had taken the job at Westfield Memorial Hospital specifically because it was the only position that offered immediate health insurance. They needed it desperately after Brooke's father's cancer treatments had drained their savings and left them with $600,000 in medical debt. But that had nothing to do with why she'd reported Thornton. 2 minutes, Connor announced. Though he sounded increasingly uncomfortable. Guys, maybe we should just what? Tyler snapped. Let her destroy everything? You want to explain to your parents why your full ride to UConn got revoked? Why Coach got fired and the whole program got shut down? You want to work at McDonald's instead of playing Division I? Brooke checked her phone. The emergency app showed active listeners. 3 dispatchers, 2 administrators from the state board. And her heart leaped a notification that local news had picked up the stream. The viewer count was climbing. 50, 100, 200. She'd tagged it with number Westfield abuse and number Coach Thornton cover-up. Hashtags that had been trending locally after 2 former players had posted cryptic TikToks about surviving Westfield basketball. You know what the real shame is? Tyler's voice had taken on a philosophical tone that made Brooke's skin crawl. Coach actually wanted to help her. Told us she had potential, could have had everything: scholarship, connections, a future. But some people would rather be victims than winners. 1 minute, Jake announced, Connor, go get the key. I don't think, Connor started. Go get the key, Tyler roared. And Brooke heard footsteps running away. This was it. She had maybe 5 minutes before Connor returned. Her livestream viewer count had passed 500. Comments were flooding in. Mostly shock and outrage. Someone had tagged the Connecticut State Police account. Another had shared it to a parents group with 12,000 members. She spoke directly into her phone for the first time. My name is Brooke Evans. I'm a 17-year-old student at Westfield High School in Connecticut. I am currently locked in a janitor's closet on the 3rd floor by 3 male students acting on orders from Coach Marcus Thornton. I have evidence of systematic abuse of female athletes by Coach Thornton, including forced private training sessions, inappropriate physical contact, and threats against those who refuse to comply. I submitted this evidence anonymously because I feared retaliation. That fear was justified. Please send help to Westfield High School immediately. Shut up in there. Tyler's fist slammed against the door so hard that dust fell from the ceiling. You think you're smart? You think this little stunt will save you? My father's lawyers will bury you? They'll prove you're lying. That you're just some troubled kid looking for attention. Who's going to believe you over Coach Thornton? Over the entire Westfield athletic legacy? The evidence will believe me, Brooke said, surprising herself with how steady her voice sounded. Ashley Chen's testimony will believe me. The 12 other girls who've been too scared to come forward will believe me. The security footage from the equipment room that Coach didn't know about will believe me. Silence fell outside the door. She'd been bluffing about the security footage as far as she knew. There weren't cameras in the equipment room, but Tyler didn't need to know that. "You're lying," Jake said, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. "Am I? Why do you think I came to this specific closet?" "Third floor. In northwest corner, the one place in school where the new cameras have perfect angles on the doorway, the ones installed last month that Coach doesn't have access to because they're managed by the district IT department, not the school." More silence. Brooke's live stream had passed 2,000 viewers. The Westfield High Facebook page was exploding with parents demanding answers. 3 news vans were reportedly en route to the school. The state athletics board had issued an emergency statement that they were investigating the situation. Footsteps pounded back down the hallway. Connor, breathless. "Guys, we have a problem. There are cops in the parking lot, like a lot of cops, and news vans, and Coach just texted saying to abort. Get out of there now." "What?" Tyler's voice cracked. "How did they—" "She's live streaming," Connor said. Panic evident. "Jake, your mom just called me. She's watching it on Facebook. Half the town is watching. We need to go. Now. We can't just leave her." Jake protested weakly. "Watch me." Connor's footsteps were already retreating. "If we run, we look guilty," Tuller insisted. But his bravado was crumbling. "We are guilty," Connor shouted from farther away. "I'm not throwing away my future for Coach Thornton. I'm done." Brooke heard a scuffle. Heated whispers. She couldn't make out. Then Jake's voice. "Tyler, he's right. This is over. Coach is on his own." "You cowards," Tyler screamed. "You pathetic." "No, you're pathetic," Jake shot back, following Coach around like a puppy, doing his dirty work. "You think he cares about you? You think he won't throw you under the bus the second this gets serious? Wake up." More footsteps. Running away. Then just Tyler, breathing heavily outside the door. "This isn't over," he said quietly, menacingly. "You might have won this round, but you don't understand what you've started. You don't understand who you're messing with. My family, your family is about to be very disappointed in you," Brooke interrupted, "especially when they find out their golden boy commits felony kidnapping for a coach who grooms teenage girls." "He doesn't," Tyler started, then stopped. "You don't have proof of that?" "I have 43 minutes of recorded conversations, Tyler, including the one where Ashley Chen describes exactly what Coach did to her, including Sarah Martinez explaining why she quit basketball senior year after being the top scorer, including Emma Thompson, remember her, transferred to Riverside last year, detailing why she really left. Your hero is a predator, and you just helped him by imprisoning the person trying to stop him." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Through the door crack, Brooke saw flashing lights reflecting off the hallway walls. "Open the door." "Tyler," she said firmly, "it's over. Open the door and walk away. Maybe they'll go easier on you if you cooperate." A long pause. Then the sound of a key in the lock. The door swung open, revealing Tyler Morrison, star athlete, honor student, golden boy of Westfield, looking like a lost child. His Westfield basketball jacket seemed to hang loose on his shoulders, no longer fitting quite right. Brooke stepped out slowly, keeping her phone up. "Still recording." Tuller backed away, hands visible, as footsteps thundered up the stairs. "I'm sorry," he whispered, and she almost believed him. Coach saved my life. Before him, I was nobody. I couldn't just let you." "He didn't save your life," Brooke said quietly. "He used you, just like he used those girls. The only difference is you got championships out of it instead of trauma." Campus police rounded the corner, followed by state troopers. Tuller didn't run. He stood there, shoulders slumped, as Officer Martinez, whom Brooke recognized from the morning safety assembly, approached carefully. "Hands where we can see them." "Son," Officer Martinez said. "Brooke, are you hurt?" "I'm okay," she managed, though her legs were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. "Tyler Morrison, Jake Patterson, and Connor Reed locked me in there on Coach Thornton's orders. I have it all recorded. The live stream." "We know," Officer Martinez said gently. "Half the department was watching. You did good, kid. Real good." "Tyler," I need you to turn around and put your hands behind your back." As they cuffed Tyler, more officers flooded the hallway. Principal Davies appeared, looking pale and shaken. His usual pompous authority nowhere to be seen. Behind him, Brooke spotted her mother still in her hospital, scrubs pushing past administrators to reach her. "Mom?" Brooke's voice broke for the first time. "I'm here, baby." Her mother wrapped her in a fierce hug. "I saw everything. I'm so proud of you. So proud." Over her mother's shoulder, Brooke saw them leading Tyler away. He glanced back once, and she saw tears on his face. Despite everything, she felt a pang of sympathy. He was as much a victim of Thornton's toxic influence as anyone, he just didn't know it yet. "Mrs. Evans?" A woman in a sharp suit approached. "I'm Detective Sarah Walsh, Special Victims Unit. We need to take Brooke's statement, and we'll need all the recordings she mentioned. But first," she looked at Brooke with something like admiration. "That was incredibly brave and smart. The live stream was genius. No way for them to deny or cover up anything." "Where's Coach Thornton?" Brooke asked. Detective Walsh's expression hardened. "Being arrested in his office as we speak. Turns out you weren't the first to report him, just the first to get evidence that couldn't be ignored. We've been building a case for months, but the school always closed ranks. Your live stream just blew it wide open." As they walked toward the main entrance, Brooke saw the full scale of what she'd unleashed. The parking lot was packed with police cars, news vans, and parents' vehicles. Students pressed against windows, filming everything. Social media was exploding with hashtags number Justice for Brooke and number Thornton must go trending nationally, but it was the group of girls standing near the main entrance that made Brooke stop short. Ashley Chen was there, along with Sarah Martinez and 6 others. Brooke recognized from the basketball team. They were holding hands, tears streaming down their faces, but standing tall. Ashley broke away from the group and approached Brooke. "Thank you," she whispered, pulling her into a hug. "Thank you for being brave when we couldn't be. Thank you for believing us." "I just recorded," Brooke started. "No." Sarah Martinez joined them. "You stood up to them? You refused to be silenced. You gave us our voices back, one by one." The other girls joined the hug, until Brooke was surrounded by survivors who'd found strength in her courage. Cameras clicked and filmed. But for once, the attention felt like vindication rather than violation. "Miss Evans?" Principal Davies approached tentatively, clearly aware he was being filmed by multiple news crews. "I owe you an apology. When concerns were raised previously, I failed in my duty to protect our students. I chose to protect the school's reputation instead. That changes today." Brooke met his eyes steadily. "It better, because I'm not done. This wasn't just about Coach Thornton. This was about a system that protected him, enabled him, and silenced his victims. That system needs to be dismantled." Davies nodded, looking genuinely shaken. "You're right. We'll be launching a full investigation, bringing in external reviewers, implementing new safeguards, and mandatory reporting training for all staff." Brooke interrupted. "Anonymous tip lines that actually go somewhere. Student advocates who aren't beholden to the athletic department. Real change. Not just PR damage control." "Yes." Davies agreed quickly. "All of that. You have my word. I'll be holding you to it." Brooke said. "We all will." As they finally made it to her mother's car, navigating through the crowd of reporters, shouting questions, Brooke's phone buzzed with notifications. The live stream had been viewed over 1 million times. National news outlets were picking up the story. The Connecticut Attorney General had announced a statewide investigation into athletic programs, but it was a text from an unknown number that made her smile through her exhaustion. "You don't know me, but I go to Riverside High. Our coach is just like Thornton. After watching what you did today, I'm ready to speak up. Thank you for showing us how. Emma." Another text, then another. Girls from schools across the state, across the country, finding courage in her example. The ripple effect had begun. "You know this is just the beginning, right?" her mother said as they pulled out of the chaos. "There'll be lawyers, trials, media attention. It's going to be hard." Brooke nodded. Watching Westfield High shrink in the rear window, the championship banners that had seemed so imposing a week ago now looked tattered. their gold letters tarnished by the truth beneath. "I know," she said, "but someone had to be first. Someone had to say enough." Her phone continued buzzing with messages of support, stories of survival, promises of solidarity. Each notification was proof that she hadn't just saved herself, she'd lit a spark that was spreading like wildfire through the carefully maintained silence of high school athletics. As they drove home, Brooke thought about Tyler Morrison, probably sitting in a police station cell by now, his future in ruins. She thought about Jake and Connor, who'd have to live with their choices. She thought about Coach Thornton, whose decades-long reign of terror was finally ending by bacta. But mostly, she thought about Ashley Chen and Sarah Martinez and Emma Thompson and all the girls who'd suffered in silence, told they were overreacting, convinced their dreams mattered less than a coach's reputation. They'd have their day in court now. Their voices would be heard. The sun was setting over Westfield, painting the sky in shades of justice delayed but not denied. Brooke Evans had been locked in a closet, but she'd emerged with the power to unlock the truth for countless others. The Westfield High Gymnasium had never been this quiet. 3 weeks after the live stream that shattered the school's carefully polished facade, Brooke Evans stood in the same space where Coach Marcus Thornton had built his empire of fear. The championship banners still hung from the rafters, but now they seemed like evidence at a crime scene rather than symbols of glory. 57? Detective Walsh said, flipping through her tablet as they walked across the polished court. "That's how many victims have come forward since your live stream, some going back 20 years. Brooke felt the weight of that number settle in her chest. 57 girls whose lives had been derailed, whose dreams had been twisted into nightmares, whose voices had been silenced by a system that valued winning over their well-being. The oldest victim is 38 now," Walsh continued. "She saw your video on Facebook and called us crying, said she'd been carrying the secret since she was 16. That Thornton's abuse destroyed her ability to trust anyone. She never told her husband, her kids. But watching you stand up to those boys, hearing you name what happened, it freed her." They stopped at the spot where team photos were displayed. Thornton's face smiled from 2 decades of frames, his arm around different groups of young athletes who'd trusted him. Maintenance was scheduled to remove them all tomorrow, but Brooke had wanted to see them one last time. "How's Tyler Morrison doing?" she asked. Surprising herself with the question, Walsh's expression softened slightly. "He's cooperating fully. Turns out he knew more than he initially admitted. Witnessed several incidents he'd convinced himself were training techniques. His testimony is going to be crucial for the prosecution. He's looking at probation and community service instead of jail time. And Jake? Connor? Similar deals. They're all testifying against Thornton." Connor actually broke down during his interview, said he'd suspected something was wrong for years, but was too scared to lose his scholarship prospects. Jake's been volunteering at a crisis center, trying to make amends. Brooke nodded, feeling a complicated mix of emotions. They'd terrorized her, locked her in that closet. But they were also teenagers caught in Thornton's web of manipulation and toxic culture. The real monster was the adult who'd groomed them, all the boys to be his enforcers, the girls to be his victims. "The trial starts next month," Walsh said. "You'll need to testify. Are you prepared for that?" "Yes," Brooke said without hesitation. "Those girls deserve to see him held accountable. They deserve to see the system that failed them admit its mistakes." Her phone buzzed with a text from Ashley Chen. "Team meeting in 5 minutes. You coming?" Brooke smiled. In the aftermath of Thornton's arrest, the basketball team had reformed under assistant coach Maria Rodriguez, who'd apparently been documenting concerns about Thornton for years, but had been repeatedly shut down by administration. The girls had voted unanimously to invite Brooke as an honorary team member, even though she'd never played a game. "I have to go," Brooke told Walsh. "The team's announcing something today?" The detective smiled. "I heard about that. It's a good thing you're doing. All of you." Brooke made her way to the conference room where 23 girls were gathered, current players, recent graduates, and survivors from years past. Ashley stood at the front, her captain's confidence restored, now that she could lead without fear. "Thank you all for coming," Ashley began. "As you know, we've been working on something important, something that ensures what happened to us never happens to another athlete at Westfield." She pulled out a document, I present the Westfield High Athletic Bill of Rights. Sarah Martinez took over, reading from the paper. Every athlete has the right to train in a safe environment free from harassment, intimidation, or inappropriate contact. Every athlete has the right to report concerns without fear of retaliation. Every athlete has the right to refuse private training sessions and request witnesses for all interactions with coaches. The list continued in fundamental rights that should have been obvious but had been systematically violated for 2 decades. When Sarah finished, the room erupted in applause. Principal Davies has agreed to implement this immediately, Ashley announced. But we're not stopping there. We're pushing for statewide adoption. Emma Thompson from Riverside is already working on getting her school board to consider it. Brooke felt tears prick her eyes. From trauma had come transformation. From silence had come a chorus of voices demanding change. "Brooke," Ashley called out, "we have something for you." The team parted to reveal a custom Westfield jersey with Evans on the back and the number 57 for the survivors who'd found their voices below the number, in small letters. "Courage is contagious. You may not have played basketball," team member Jade Williams said, "but you're the MVP of the most important game we ever won." As Brooke accepted the jersey, her phone rang. Her mother, "Honey, you need to see the news," her mom said, excitement in her voice. The state legislature just announced emergency hearings on athletic oversight reform. They're calling it Brooks Law. Brooke stepped into the hallway for privacy, switching on the news app. Sure enough, State Senator Patricia Coleman was at a podium surrounded by parents and advocates. The events at Westfield High have exposed systematic failures that exist in athletic programs across our state. Coleman declared, "Brooks Law will mandate independent oversight of all school athletic programs, require background checks and training for all coaches, establish anonymous reporting systems, and create severe penalties for those who cover up abuse. No more Coach Thorntons, no more silent victims, no more choosing trophies over children's safety." The comments section was flooded with support from across the country. Other states were already announcing similar initiatives. The hashtag number Brooks Law was trending nationally. Back at home that evening, Brooke sat at the kitchen table with her mother, sorting through the hundreds of letters and emails she'd received. Some were from survivors sharing their stories, others from parents thanking her for protecting future generations, a few from lawyers offering to represent her pro bono in civil suits against the school district. "This one's interesting," her mother said, holding up an official-looking envelope. Harvard University. Brooke's heart skipped as she opened it. Inside was a letter from the Dean of Admissions. "Dear Miss Evans, your extraordinary courage and leadership in exposing systematic abuse at Westfield High School demonstrates exactly the kind of character Harvard seeks in its students. We are deeply impressed by your integrity, strategic thinking, and commitment to justice. Should you choose to apply to Harvard, please know that your application will receive our strongest consideration. We need leaders like you." Similar letters had arrived from Yale, Stanford, and Princeton. Brooke set them aside carefully. A year ago, she would have been overwhelmed by such attention from Ivy League schools. Now, it felt like a small consolation compared to what really mattered. "Have you decided what you want to do?" her mother asked gently. Brooke had been thinking about this constantly. The media attention, the speaking requests, and the book deals being offered, it was overwhelming. Part of her wanted to return to the anonymity she'd craved when they first moved to Westfield, but she knew that wasn't possible anymore. And more importantly, it wasn't what the 57 survivors deserved. "I want to start a foundation," Brooke said, "for athletes who need help but don't know where to turn, with proper funding, legal resources, counseling services." Named after Ashley's friend who took her own life sophomore year because she couldn't handle Thornton's abuse anymore. Her mother reached across the table to squeeze her hand. "Rebecca Chen." Ashley mentioned her. "The Rebecca Chen Safe Sport Foundation." Brooke continued, "I've already talked to some of the parents who've reached out. 3 law firms have offered pro bono services. A tech company wants to develop an app for anonymous reporting. We can make real change." "Mom," not just at Westfield, but everywhere. The doorbell rang, interrupting their planning. Brooke opened it to find Tyler Morrison standing on her porch. looking simultaneously older and younger than he had 3 weeks ago. His Westfield basketball jacket was gone, replaced by a simple hoodie. "Tyler?" Brooke couldn't hide her surprise. "I'm sorry to just show up," he said quickly. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to see, but I needed to tell you something in person." Brooke's mother appeared behind her, protective instincts flaring. But Brooke held up a hand. "It's okay, Mom. We'll talk on the porch." They sat on the front steps, an awkward silence stretching between them before Tyler spoke. "I've been thinking about what you said, about Coach using me just like he used those girls. You were right. I got trophies and scholarships while they got trauma and silence. I was part of the system that protected him." "You were 17, Brooke said. "He was the adult. He manipulated all of you." Tyler shook his head. "That's not an excuse. I knew something was wrong. Deep down, I knew, but I told myself it wasn't my problem. That coach was just tough. Old school. I let my ambition blind me to what was right in front of me." He pulled out an envelope. "Duke rescinded my scholarship. My parents are devastated. My whole future? Everything I worked for gone." "I'm sorry," Brooke said, and meant it. "Don't be. I needed to lose everything to understand what those girls lost. Their trust, their safety, their love of the sport, things way more valuable than any scholarship." He handed her the envelope. "This is a list of every incident I witnessed or heard about. Names, dates, details. My lawyer says I don't have to provide this much information, but I want to. Those girls deserve the whole truth." Brooke accepted the envelope, feeling its weight. "This will help the prosecution." "Good. I also wanted to tell you I'm starting therapy. Real therapy. Not the sports psychology stuff Coach made us do. Trying to understand how I became someone who would lock a girl in a closet for a predator. Trying to be better." He stood to leave, then turned back. "You saved more than just those girls. Brooke, you saved guys like me from becoming the next generation of enablers. That takes a different kind of courage." After he left, Brooke sat on the porch a while longer, processing the conversation. The sun was setting over Westfield, painting the sky in shades of hope and healing. 3 months later, Brooke stood at a podium in the state capitol building, testifying before the legislature about Brooke's law. The room was packed with survivors, advocates, and media. Behind her sat Ashley Chen, Sarah Martinez, Emma Thompson, and dozens of other girls who'd found their voices. Athletic programs should build character, not destroy it. Brooke read from her prepared statement. They should create champions of integrity, not cultures of silence. Coach Thornton stole more than innocence. He stole the joy of sport from generations of girls. But today, we reclaim that joy. Today, we ensure no coach will ever again use their power to prey on vulnerable athletes. The legislation passed unanimously. As cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions, Brooke found herself thinking about that janitor's closet. How trapped and terrified she'd felt. How certain she'd been that speaking up would destroy her life. Instead, it had transformed it. The wireless mic that transmitted her fear had become a megaphone for change. The live stream meant to document her terror had broadcast courage to millions. The 3 boys who tried to silence her had inadvertently amplified her voice beyond anything they could have imagined. 6 months after the closet incident, Westfield High held its first athletics assembly under the new guidelines. Brooke was invited to speak, though she'd graduated early to focus on the foundation. She stood before a gymnasium full of current students, looking at faces that reminded her of herself young, hopeful, deserving of protection. "Courage isn't the absence of fear," she told them. "It's acting despite that fear. It's speaking up when your voice shakes. It's refusing to let wrong become normal just because it's tradition." In the front row, she spotted Tyler Morrison. He was volunteering as a peer counselor now, using his story to help other young men recognize toxic masculinity and complicit behavior. Jake and Connor were there too, part of the reformed athletic culture at Westfield. "You all have power?" Brooke continued. "The power to speak up, to support each other, to refuse to participate in systems that harm people. Use it, because your voice might be the one that saves someone. Your courage might be the spark that lights change." The Rebecca Chen Safe Sport Foundation launched that fall with endorsements from Olympic athletes, professional sports leagues, and survivor advocates nationwide. The anonymous reporting app had been downloaded over 100,000 times in its first month. 3 more states had passed versions of Brooke's Law. At the launch gala, held in Westfield's transformed gymnasium, Brooke stood with Rebecca's parents as they unveiled a memorial plaque. Rebecca's mother spoke through tears. "My daughter suffered in silence because she thought no one would believe her. She thought Coach Thornton was too powerful, too protected." Brooke proved that no one is above accountability. This foundation ensures Rebecca's death was not in vain. As the evening wound down, Ashley Chen pulled Brooke aside. "I got into Stanford," she whispered. "Full scholarship. I wrote my essay about finding my voice after years of silence. About how you showed me that strength isn't just physical, it's moral. You always had that strength," Brooke replied. "You just needed someone to remind you it was there." Detective Walsh appeared with an update. "Thornton was sentenced today. 30 years. No possibility of parole for 15. The judge specifically cited your live stream as proof of his attempts to silence victims through intimidation." Brooke nodded, feeling a chapter close. Justice had been served. But more importantly, systems had changed. Future generations of athletes would compete in environments where their safety mattered more than trophies. As she left the gala, Brooke's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "My name is Katie. I'm 13 and just made my school basketball team today. My coach tried to schedule a private training session. I remembered your story and asked for another player to be present. He got angry, said I was being difficult. I reported him to the new tip line. They're investigating. Thank you for making it safe to speak up." Brooke smiled through tears. This was why she'd endured the threats, the trial, the media scrutiny. For Katie, for all the Katies who would now know their safety mattered more than any game, the ripple effect of courage continued spreading, each wave stronger than the last. What started in a janitor's closet had become a nationwide movement. What began with one girl's refusal to be silenced had given voice to thousands. And somewhere in Connecticut, in a small apartment above a medical clinic, Brooke Evans sat with her mother, planning the foundation's next chapter. The girl who just wanted to be invisible had become a beacon for those trapped in darkness. The championship banners at Westfield High had been replaced with the Athletic Bill of Rights, where Thornton's photos once hung. A simple plaque now read, "In honor of all who found the courage to speak truth to power. Your voices matter. Your safety matters. You matter." The janitor's closet on the 3rd floor had been converted into a meditation room for student athletes, a quiet space for reflection and peace. On the door, a small sign. From darkness, light. From silence, strength. From fear, freedom. Brooke Evans had been locked in a closet, but she'd opened doors for countless others. And that was a victory worth more than all the trophies in the world. The live stream that exposed Westfield's darkest secrets had ended, but the movement for safe sports had just begun. Madison Sterling stood at the podium of the United Nations Youth Assembly, her presence commanding the attention of delegates from 73 countries. At 22, she had transformed from a high school cheerleading captain into a globally recognized advocate for youth empowerment and anti-bullying initiatives. The whistle, the same silver whistle from Westfield Academy, hung around her neck, now engraved with a simple phrase, "Courage echoes." 5 years ago, Madison began, her voice carrying the same strength that had once commanded cheerleading formations. "I learned that sometimes we must lose something precious to discover something invaluable. A group of bullies thought they could silence me by destroying my appearance. Instead, they awakened a movement that has touched 14 million students across 6 continents." The assembly hall, filled with young leaders, educators, and policymakers, listened with rapt attention. Behind Madison, a massive screen displayed images from the Whistle Movement students from Tokyo to Sao Paulo, from Nairobi to Stockholm, all wearing small silver whistles, all standing up against systematic bullying in their communities. The Whistle Protocol, Madison continued, has been implemented in over 3,000 schools worldwide. It's simple. 1 blast for attention. 2 for intervention needed. 3 for emergency. But more than a system, it's a symbol that every student has the power to sound the alarm against injustice. In the audience, Emma Fitzgerald, now a successful civil rights attorney, smiled with pride. Beside her sat Sophia Chen, who had become a documentary filmmaker. Her latest work, The Sound of Change, having just won an Emmy for its portrayal of the whistle movement's global impact. Madison's phone vibrated with a message she'd been expecting. She glanced at it, a small smile playing at her lips, before continuing her speech. But today isn't just about celebrating our progress. It's about acknowledging how far we still have to go. Every 37 seconds, a student somewhere in the world is bullied into silence. Every day, young people choose permanent solutions to temporary problems because they believe their voices don't matter. We're here to tell them, you matter. Your voice matters. And we're listening. As Madison concluded her speech to thunderous applause, she noticed a familiar figure in the back of the hall. Her breath caught slightly, but she maintained her composure, finishing with her signature whistle blast that had become the movement's rallying cry. After the session, Madison was surrounded by delegates eager to implement the whistle protocol in their countries. She answered questions with practiced ease. Her pixie cut now, her signature look catching the light as she moved through the crowd, but her attention kept drifting to that figure, waiting patiently by the exit. Finally, as the crowd thinned, Madison approached him. Chase Remington looked nothing like the arrogant quarterback who had terrorized Westfield Academy. His designer clothes had been replaced by a simple volunteer t-shirt from Second Chances, a rehabilitation program for young offenders. His eyes, once cruel and mocking, now carried the weight of genuine remorse and hard-earned wisdom. "Hello, Madison," he said quietly. "Chase." Madison's hand instinctively moved to her whistle. "Security knows you're here? I checked in. I'm registered as a volunteer with the Canadian delegation." He shifted uncomfortably. "I wanted to thank you, in person, for saving my life." Madison studied him carefully. The 5 years had aged him in ways that went beyond the physical. Where once there had been entitled swagger, now stood humility. His famous smirk had been replaced by a tentative, genuine expression. "You saved your own life?" Madison replied. "I just showed you the mirror." "No, you did more than that." Chase pulled out a worn piece of paper, a printout of Madison's viral speech from that night at Westfield. "After I got out of juvenile detention, after losing everything, I wanted to end it all. Then I found this. Your words about transformation, about choosing who we become after our worst moments. They kept me going." He gestured to his volunteer badge. "I've spent 3 years working with kids who were like Bullies from privileged backgrounds who thought the world owed them everything. I show them my mugshot, my story, and then I show them yours. The girl I tried to destroy who ended up saving not just me, but thousands of others." Madison felt the weight of the moment. Here stood her former tormentor, transformed by the very movement his cruelty had sparked. It was almost poetic. "How many kids have you worked with?" she asked. 237. 80% have gone on to become peer counselors themselves. We call it the Ripple Program because one person's change creates waves. Chase reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. "I know I can never undo what I did, but I wanted to give you this." Inside was a delicate gold charma whistle, crafted with intricate detail, with a tiny diamond where the mouthpiece would be. "It's not to replace your whistle," Chase explained quickly. "It's a thank you for showing me that power used to lift others is the only power worth having. My counselees and I pooled our money. Every kid who's gone through the program contributed something." Madison took the charm, feeling its weight. "Did Derek and Marcus?" Derek runs a nonprofit in Detroit now, teaching conflict resolution. Marcus became a social worker. We all found our ways to give back. Chase met her eyes. "You didn't just stop 3 bullies that day, Madison. You created 3 advocates who've reached thousands more DZs and ADS. The ripple effect you started, it's immeasurable." Before Madison could respond, Sophia appeared with her camera crew. She stopped short, recognizing Chase immediately. "Is everything okay here?" Sophia asked, her protective instincts flaring. "It's fine," Madison assured her, then turned back to Chase. "Thank you for this, and for the work you're doing. Real redemption isn't just apologizing, it's actively working to prevent others from making your mistakes." Chase nodded, tears threatening at the corners of his eyes. The kids I work with, they watch your UN speech from today. They see what real strength looks like. One of them, Marcus Different Marcusha, stopped a bullying incident last week using the whistle protocol. He said he wanted to be like the girl who stood up to the monsters, even when they tried to take everything from her. As Chase walked away, Sophia moved closer to Madison. That was unexpected, Madison finished. But maybe that's the point. We never know how far our actions will ripple, who they'll transform, or what they'll become. That evening, Madison stood on the observation deck of the UN building, looking out over New York City. Her phone buzzed constantly, media requests, speaking engagements, partnership proposals. The whistle movement had become more than she'd ever imagined, spawning legislation in 12 countries, inspiring a Broadway musical, and most importantly, saving lives. A message from her sister Lily popped up, a photo from her high school graduation where she'd been selected to give the valedictorian speech. Her topic, the courage to speak, how my sister's whistle changed my world. Madison smiled, touching the charm Chase had given her. It caught the setting sun, sending tiny rainbows across her hand. 5 years ago, she'd stood in a bathroom with butchered hair and a heart full of rage. Today, she stood as a beacon of hope for millions. Proof that sometimes the worst moments of our lives can become the catalyst for our greatest purpose. Her original whistle caught the wind, producing a soft, melodic tone. Somewhere in the city below, she knew a young person was facing their own, Chase Remington, their own moment of truth. And maybe, just maybe, they'd remember that a whistle blown with courage could lock down more than a football field. It could open up a world of possibility. Madison Sterling, once defined by her golden ponytail, now defined by her golden impact on the world, tucked the charm into her pocket alongside her grandfather's compass. Another reminder that sometimes we need to lose our way to find our true direction. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new voices to amplify, new battles to fight. But tonight, as the lights of New York twinkled like earthbound stars, Madison allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. She'd blown the whistle on injustice, and the echo had circled the globe, returning to her, multiplied 1,000,000 times over in the voices of young people who refused to be silenced. The girl who'd been attacked for her appearance had become beautiful in the way that truly mattered, through the beauty of her impact, the elegance of her courage, and the grace of allowing even her worst enemy to find redemption. That was the real power of the whistle, not just to stop wrongdoing, but to start transformation. As Madison headed home, her whistle swinging gently with each step, she passed a group of teenage girls. One of them, sporting a fresh pixie cut, wore a small silver whistle on a chain. She caught Madison's eye and smiled, a smile of recognition, solidarity, and strength. Madison nodded back, understanding, passing between them without words. The movement would continue, one whistle at a time, one voice at a time, one transformed life at a time. And somewhere in the distance, she could swear she heard it, the sound of whistles blowing across the world. A symphony of courage that had begun with a single blast in a lockdown football field. The bullies had tried to cut her down. Instead, they'd planted a forest. And Madison Sterling, the girl with the whistle, had taught the world that sometimes the most beautiful things grow from the most painful cuts.